Gosh.
Yay!
You did it! You did it!
Oh, joy is me. I did it all by myself. I put us on. This is so cool. Well, hello, good morning, good evening, good everything, everybody. I am so happy to be back with obviously Mornay, as always, who's just taught me how to do the intro all by myself. I'm never too old to learn. And of course, our beautiful Catherine Edwards. How are you, Catherine? So good to see you again.
I'm really good, thank you. I think the heavens are about to open, so the dogs and I have just had a nice walk, and we're really looking forward to this conversation. They might join in as well with this one.
Absolutely. And what an important convo we're having today, all about interspecies communication and the importance of that. And wow. And I think any animal lover, which all of us here are, beyond a shadow, we understand how much deeper the connection with not just our animals, but with nature. Um, and the elements actually when we're able to connect on that level, it just becomes a whole nother world, right?
Absolutely.
Completely. And I also think it adds so much to your human interactions as well, because one interesting place to start is how well do we think humans are communicating with each other at the moment? And because there's a lot of difference of opinions about what people think communication means. So yeah, I think a lot of the human interactions could be improved hugely when we understand that communication is more than just words.
Absolutely. It's about body language. It's about the energy you exude. It's about not what you say, but how you say it, and it's really about understanding that I think every minute of every day you projecting, right, energetically. And we understand that the world is created through frequency, vibration, and sound. That's what we are all made up of, whether you are human, animal, a baby, a plant, all different vibrations, if you will, of energy. But really important that we understand, in my opinion, that we all created from the same creator, and we have so much to learn from each other, and communication really is key and on a much deeper level than what we're currently doing. And I love, Catherine, what you said about how we are currently communicating with each other as well, because wow, I mean, I think the last 2 years has been so significant for us to see where we as human beings are at. Just the way that we have dealt with this scamdemic. We know it's a scamdemic. But I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes to a lot of things, and really the ugliness and the nastiness. And we just got to find another way, because it's really about what's sitting inside of us, right?
Absolutely. I mean, no other species on the planet, we might limit this conversation today perhaps to the species that we know about on this planet, otherwise it would be such a wild conversation. But we're so used to, for humans, when we're talking about communication, we tend to think in very physiological senses. And what I mean by that is we use our mouths a lot, we use our eyes, we use our ears. And it's interesting, if you look about how humans communicate, their first dominant sense is their ears, then their eyes, then their nose. But if we take it to how dogs communicate with their world around them, including us humans and each other, it's exactly the opposite. And so their dominant sense is the nose, is a sense of smell, and then their eyes, and then their ears. So you can see how our world and our way of communicating is so confusing for them, because we are expecting everything to be done on voice and hearing, when they're smelling our pheromones, they're smelling our energetic state, they're smelling the world around them, that a lot of us humans are completely ignorant around. So they might be moving into an area and picking up a completely different energy based on the senses that they're using to what we're using. And we tend to think if we can't hear there's a problem, there's no danger coming. And that's very simplistic. But I think it's interesting for humans to look at how we do communicate and how so much of it is on the verbal side of things and the speaking and the hearing side of things, and how much we can miss in that communication. Because I think we've all had so many experiences we could think of, even if you're not face to face, even if you're watching someone on the TV, for example, or on a video, you can very easily tell when you tune in when their words don't match their body language, they don't match the essence and the energy that they're giving off. So imagine how confusing it is for other species.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to communication is definitely the key cause of all the problems, I believe, in this world right now. And with this pandemic, I mean, the way we communicated with each other, I mean, friends turned against each other. So immediately there was like something happening there. But for me, I always say learning animal communication or talking to animals and stuff, it's really a gift that you have to like relearn again. But I always say that once you can do that, you could have a conversation with your mother-in-law or your or your sibling that you could never speak with. There's just a way that if you learn to communicate, not just with those senses that we used to, it opens up a whole new highway. We can start actually understanding each other. And I love the way when I'm thinking about the dogs doing the nose thing and they use smell. When you connect with somebody and you're trying to pick up with, especially with animals, let's say animals as well, when you learn to communicate in this way, you will get a certain smell, you know, and that smell will trigger a memory of something that you understand that you can associate with. So you can immediately understand what that animal is trying to tell you. It's amazing because everything is energy, like Chantelle said. Everything is energy. So everything vibrates in energy and information. So if I want to tell the animal something, I will use whatever form of understanding I have of that message, and it will translate to that animal in whatever form of energy that animal understands, and that way back. So language barriers goes away. If you can understand somebody's heart, and then you can understand anything from somebody. So this kind of communication is, I think, is vital for the next stage of our evolution as humans. Definitely beyond. And we really need to reevaluate our communication skills and how the effort we put behind our communication and understanding.
I think that's so important what you just said there, because a lot of people that are really seeking knowledge at the moment, I think there's been such a brilliant development in terms of the accessibility to different forms of spiritual development, of connection, and whatever that looks like for different people. And for me, the interspecies communication, or let's just use animal communication as an example for that, is such an enabler into this, because you just were mentioning how important the heart is there. And we know there's so many studies by heart maths and meditation and all sorts of things that show that when we move into our heart space, not only how that affects the field that we're giving off, that's communicating with this field that's connected to everything, whatever you might want to call that, but also how different people and animals will pick up from that. And the great thing is any time when we're learning to communicate with animals, we all know, because we all, not only do we do this in our daily lives, but we all teach it, is you absolutely have to move into your heart space. You can't communicate with other species from just a head space. And so when we learn these skills, everything is all connected, isn't it? All of the skills that we need to learn to communicate, or I prefer to say remember rather than learn, because like you were saying, we're all born with these skills. They're just quickly bashed out of us. They have so many knock-on benefits in other areas of your life, in my opinion. You know, they're a win-win for every aspect of your your personal development, but also your interactions with everything else around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I totally agree with that. And, it also, just listening to what you guys are saying brings me back to what I always say, it all comes back to you, you know? Um, we have to watch our own inner dialogue. We have to watch our thoughts. We have to watch our emotions because every second of every day we are emitting our frequency, which broadcasts everything we're feeling, whether we're hiding it from the world or not, into the ethos. And that is vibrating in your aura. Now, as I always say, when we understand God's law of correspondence or law of attraction, energy is always going to attract its same vibration. So when we are attracting and consistently, I'm not talking about a once-off thing here and there. It all happens. It's all there just to catch us, whatever, but catch us if we're falling type thing. That's what I'm meaning to say. But if it's a consistent thing, that it's a pattern in your life, that you consistently having communication issues with someone, or arguments, or anger, or whatever it might be, that's the time I will then say to people, and I invite you to, in your moments of silence, do the interior work or the inner reflection and check your thoughts. What are you thinking? There's a concept in yoga called ahimsa. Now, ahimsa is non-violence. So when we look at non-violence, it might be all well and good to think about being a vegan and wearing everything that's animal friendly, earth friendly, whatever, we can do that. And that's a wonderful thing in itself. However, non-violence or non-violence begins in your own mind. Sowing the seeds of violence, like, for example, it can start with, I should have this, or I could have that, and why didn't I that, and if only I had that, and that one really annoys me, and these are the things. So that in itself are sowing seeds of violence in the mind, because that's going to grow into a weed that's going to take over with a whole lot of regret and a whole lot of anger and a whole lot of frustration, and that emits out of you. And therefore, you're going to attract situations that match that, right? We always look at the other people. But then when we're looking at ourselves, we can understand when I start being gentler with myself, when I stop judging myself, when I stop being angry with myself, I then start feeling different in the world. My energy elevates, and I'm able to express myself in a much more calm, peaceful, relaxed, non-aggressive way. And in that way, I elicit that from others too, mostly, right? Not all the time, but that's how we obviously learn to understand. So I think for me, it really is about that. And interesting, we bring up this topic today because we've just finished week 6 of our conscious communication workshop. 5, 6,
Yeah,
6.
six.
We got 2 weeks to go, and it's amazing. And any of the students on that workshop know the only way you're going to connect with an animal is when you are calm and in
Exactly.
a space of love. Animals respond to that. Why do you think dogs bite some people and not others? Dogs, as Catherine, what you were saying, they read your frequency. And they're smelling something which makes them react to what you're putting out there. So this is how it works. And this is what we need to become conscious of. And when we ourselves calm down and learn to calm our farm, as I say,
Calm
we
your
then going
farm.
to be able, yeah, we then not only are kinder to ourselves, but we are kinder to our families, our friends, our partners, our cats and dogs, and then we start understanding each animal too has their own little personality, has their own character. Their life is important to them, is as important to them as your life is to you. And this is what we start realizing, when we start moving into these understandings, which automatically elicits the desire to hurt another. Sorry, not elicits, diminishes, dissolves the desire to hurt another.
What
My
do you
five
think
cents.
about, sorry, what do you think about the when we're looking, whether we're communicating between humans, we won't even open up the debate about which of us are human and which aren't, but with humans, or with a dog or a cat or a wild animal or a tree or your aloe vera plant, there's so much that comes into it about the intent and the purpose of your communication. And are you looking to just take from that communication, or are you looking to give on an equal footing? Because I've certainly been involved in conversations recently where I've certainly had the feeling that the person, we hear this about human to human communication, where the person's just listening to respond rather than listening to understand. And what I see a lot when I tend to be called in quite a lot of people who've got health challenges or behavioral challenges with animals. And, the thing is, it's like, does the animal trust you enough to actually want to communicate clearer with you? Are you truly listening for mutual benefit, or are you listening to try and get compliance? How do you see that play out in communication with animals?
I fully agree. I fully agree. But you see, I think when you are trying to do something from a more manipulative space for self gain or to gain compliance or control over another, you're not going to be open and receptive to receiving that. So you yourself are not going to get very far. It's like, really, we look at this and we look at the world. We know that to deceive someone and to steal from others and to betray, it might have a short satisfaction lifespan, but at the end, the truth is always going to prevail, no matter what. So when we're in a space of understanding, I really want to connect with this creature because I just love it so much. And not just one, but all of nature, all of the animal species, for example, and humanity. I've been working with people for 20 odd years now. And as much as what human beings can sometimes really surprise and shock me with the levels of depravity we can go to, I have such a great love for humans. And it's such a beautiful thing for me to actually work with them and see them grow, and that moment the penny drops, because it's that we all have that. We just have to awaken it in another. We have to, only when we are inspired within ourselves can we really be an inspiration for another. And that's what this is. It's an inspiration. It's an inside job. The voice comes from within. So we get that inside desire and that inside knowledge. It's an inside job. So I think when we understand the truth about that, these things become natural. Animals automatically then flock to you. And it's like you'll be looking at this strange little cat on the street and suddenly you hear a message from it, maybe. You'll be walking past a tree and you'll hear a message from the tree, you know? And it's like what we were doing last night. We were actually doing nature. We were doing nature connection with trees, plants, things like that. And it's a very different frequency to adapt to, but it's there nonetheless. And when we understand that we are multidimensional beings and the universe is created, or our world specifically is created in different levels, different layers, and we have the ability to connect with every layer, and then we're able to work and understand and be the bridge. That's, I think, what this work is all about, really. It's about being the bridge
Yeah.
between.
And I just, yeah, between everything. I think as humans, we are meant to be bridges because we are here to care for this planet and be bridges for the species as well. I fully believe we are here to be caregivers. But I just wanted to add to what you were asking, Catherine. If your intentions are not right, chances are you're going to speak with your imaginary friend. You're not going to make that connection. You're not going to make that connection, even though you have the connection. I think we're already intercommunicating anyways. We as a human species, we're connected. So if you get bad thoughts about your mother, you're sending that message to your mother and she's receiving it. And she's
Yes,
probably thinking it's her bad thoughts, and she's probably thinking it's hers. So we already are using this gift just at a low level, but we are connected. We are always connected and talking on that level. I mean, look at our bodies. If you look at how the bacteria, which is an external force, it's not part of who I am, but we have these healthy bacteria living within our bodies, helping us. Don't you think your body is communicating? You are communicating with the bacteria within your body. You are.
absolutely.
So we're already having inter-species communication going on within our bodies with healthy bacteria from Mother Nature. So the thing is, if your intention is not right, you're not going to make the connection. Animals, and it's impossible. And that's probably where the fine line comes, where you start communicating with entities, or where you can open yourself up to dark forces and stuff like that. If you're really persistent, I want to communicate with angels and animals and stuff, but your intentions are not right. Your intentions is going to drive you to wherever that is. So it's really important to make sure, why do you want to do it? Because you love animals. And most people that loves animals, they understand the animals. They hear the voices of the animals, but they don't realize it because their mind is too busy. And like Shanti said, it's like, if it's too busy here, you can't hear the animals, even though they scream sometimes near it. But animals luckily don't scream. They use the emotional manipulation, dogs and cats, which we can't deny. It's easier to use emotions than the minds of you, because the minds of humans and their owners are too busy. It's really very important just to clear your mind. I mean, even if you look at your kids, it's so important just to come home, become still, leave the job, connect with your children, connect with your pets. That's when you feel them. And that silent moments, then you can actually hear their voices. But if it's busy, it's impossible. And if your intentions are wrong, then you're going to probably just hear your own ideas and thoughts about what you should be thinking about the situation or the animal or whatever. So it's important that internal communication.
Yeah, there's so many good points there. And I think, when we truly, whether we're communicating with a person or another species, is looking at the world through the other being's eyes is so important. Because so often I find when people, it's like our definition of love for animals, but how much are we looking at their needs as opposed to them fulfilling our needs? Because so much of the way people look after their animals that we might call pets now are for the human's convenience rather than the animal's good. And I think, again, why I love people, everyone, regardless of whether you're currently sharing your life with an animal or not, thinks can benefit so much by learning these animal communication or interspecies communication skills, is because it adds so much to your own life and how you can communicate with everyone around you. Because when you're looking for the communication, keeping that opening, questioning mind, what have we all been talking about and learning so much about over the last 3 years? About really questioning everything around us, the intent of it, and honing in those innate abilities of being able to feel people's energies, feel people's intuition, because so many people have got so much stress in their lives because they don't know who to trust, they don't know what information to trust, they haven't got time, as you were just talking about, both of you, for that stillness. And animals, I mean, I know he's a controversial character, but he's got some really good insights. Caesar Milan, as he said, humans are the only species that follow unstable leaders. Most animals learn most of their communication skills primarily from the parent, depending what species it is, the parent that takes the dominant care, and also from their other pack members. And their boundaries are set very, very clearly and very, very early. But when you look at humans, and even from really young children, how many influences we've got around us, often those influences have not got our best interest at heart. So the one thing you can guarantee with any animal, whether it's a pack animal, a herd animal, and we are pack animals, humans, but so many people that we get our early communication from do not have our best interest at heart, and that would never happen out in real nature. And so this is why I feel people have got so much to learn from sort of taking that step to
Yes.
actually say, right, if I can go back to learning the skills of really tuning in with my dog, tuning in with my cats, tuning in with the trees, this is going to help me discern and remove so much of that stress that's caused by not knowing who or what to believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, when we start doing this, exactly what you're talking about, connecting with human nature, animal on that level, and that includes babies, by the way.
Yeah.
If you have a little baby and you're not sure what's happening with your baby, and you're able to connect intuitively and energetically on this level, you can also pick up what's happening with your child. And this, I mean, I know this myself from when my granddaughter was little. If she was crotchety about something, I was able just to do a body scan and tell her mama what was wrong, and quickly alleviated what was going on. So we are able to do that as well. We do that with animals, we do that with humans. But I really think, Catherine, just listening to what everyone is saying, and what's so important is that we actually physically learn how to communicate differently with each other as humans. And I'm talking specifically human to human, because we have a way of coming from our defensive mechanisms, if you will, or our traditions, or whatever it might be, and we tend to disagree, and then we tend to either have the fight or flight syndrome, right? But what's so important, is we realize, as you were saying earlier on, communication is not just what's coming out of my mouth. I mean, we can tell the most terrible lies to ourselves, never mind each other, right? So it's about aligning, as we go to the chakras, you see, and when we understand how the chakras in the body work, then through using the chakras. Now, again, it's not a manipulative thing, okay? If you're going to use this to manipulate, because anything is up for manipulation, we understand that. We've seen that the last 3 years, God knows. But we cannot deny that God has created us with 7 energy centers or doorways into the body that we call chakras. So now, when we understand what each chakra means and how to operate and how to cleanse and use it and assert our energy in a positive way, we are then able to consciously, through asserting with chakras, communicate in a much more effective way as well. So instead of saying, I mean, we have that understanding, but then instead of like saying things like you never and you always, I mean, those should be 2 words that are eliminated out of your vocabulary. You never this and you always that, and accusing and attacking is the worst thing to do. So to rather step back and say, it seems to me that you've withdrawn this past week. Am I right? Not you withdrawn and you never talk. It seems to me, I feel that something's not right here. Is it possible that we can have a conversation because I'm not feeling right in this situation? You always got to take it back to yourself, into the first person. You see, that's how we take responsibility for what we say. And rather than accuse the person, ask them if what you're thinking is true. Allow them to respond with an answer. And the minute we can start learning how to do that, immediately we're going to start taking the confrontational attitude out of our communications. Same thing with your kids. I see that you playing up a little bit today. Is there anything wrong? You seem to be in a grumpy mood. Like stuff like that. It's just asking. You're going to get the situation. You're going to get answers very differently then. So from human to human, but you see, we can do that once we have taken responsibility for our stuff as well. That's when we can actually authentically start communicating in that way. As an intuitive person, I've learned that I'll ask my clients before I assume. Very often I've already understood what it is they're saying, but I've also understood a lot of people don't like you to tell them things.
Mm-hmm.
They like to make that choice themselves. So is it this or is it that? What do you think it could be? Yeah. And then they will decide what it is for them. That, I think, for me, these are a couple of very, very important keys when we learn how to communicate with each other and our partners and our friends and our children and pupils at school, students, whatever it might be. Everyone wants to be heard. Everyone has a story to tell, and it's about listening, also listening, allowing yourself to listen, because a huge part of communication is listening. It doesn't matter that you're not liking what the other person is saying. That's what they're feeling and that's their truth. So to interrupt them mid-sentence is not, and putting your stuff across is not conducive. So allow people to finish. And then seek to understand what they're saying to you. And then respond according to that once you've actually taken the time to process what they're saying. I think that is what I've come across in the years I've been doing what I'm doing is very, very common. It's just that human to human thing, that communication, how we communicate. And when we're in fear, we're often going to go for the jugular, right? Which is the worst thing.
I just want to add, somebody just commented, God gave us 2 ears and 2 eyes and 1 mouth. And I love that. So listen twice, look twice before you speak. I love that.
God gave dog 1 nose, and the nose is their dominant form of communication as well. So honestly, going back to what you were just saying, Chantelle, I think it's really, when we can learn so much by how others are interacting from us as well. And the problem is in the modern world we're looking at, particularly over the last few years, so much communication hasn't been done face to face. So as humans, we're having to completely relearn how to communicate with each other, because I'm sure there's not a single person listening today that hasn't had that awkward situation where you text someone and you might be in a hurry, so you might put it quite short form, and the other person has interpreted that with a completely different energy. And it can happen with email and everything. It can happen with people watching things like this, because even though that's why we love doing the lives, because you can see the chat, but because it's not really a two-way conversation, so you don't get the chance to give that feedback to someone. Oh, actually, how I intended it was this, because we are all learning and developing those skills. And what I would say is, like, when you've got your dogs or your cats or your horses or your hamster, they can tell you so much about where your peace, energy, vibration, whatever you want to call it, really is. Because does your animal want to be near you in your energy field or not? If you've got a dog and it hasn't got a good recall, there's a reason for that. Yes, we can look at the training, but naturally, when you look at the great animal trainers or behavioralists, they've used very little verbal communication. It's that telepathic, it's the intent, it's the energy that the animals are picking up on. You can treat teach your dog to sit by saying sausage and giving the same command all the time. They're not picking up the word sit, they're picking up your intention behind it. And I think whether it's a human that's interacting with you or another animal, we've spoken all about before about you know, really good self-analysis and okay, why are people reacting to me like this? Why are animals reacting like this? Why does my dog not want to come and be with me, etc., is really, really good feedback for us, because when an animal's giving that feedback, the beauty is there's no ego involved in that feedback. If they're
Absolutely.
giving that feedback, it's a very honest reflection without any malice behind it. Obviously, when you're dealing with human to human, you're dealing with yourself and your baggage, their self and their baggage. And sometimes, you know, those will mingle and complicate that energy field. But the great thing is about learning from animals is you haven't got that complication in the mix, in my opinion.
I agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Animals are pure, you know, and this is the thing that we must realize when we, you know, with that, which is one of the big reasons I love doing the interspecies communication, because animals truly are pure. They are pure. It's just love that they share, that they give, and they are just being who they and what they are meant to be. You know, you can't kill a crocodile because you think it doesn't belong on this earth. That crocodile's body and that crocodile's life is as important to it as your life is to you. And I think this is what we need to remember. You know, for me, that's also a huge part of interspecies communication. It's not just talking to them, but it's understanding that every life that is being lived is worthy. It is not up to us to decide what should. I mean, obviously, if you're defending yourself or something from a, absolutely, I get that. I'm talking generally now. So to get to understand, the first thing is to get to understand human nature. To understand every human is actually like you. They're irked by the same things that you are, and they love the same things that you do. So, the same thing with animals. Get to understand the different types of animals. Get to understand what their habits are. Get to understand what they're meant to be here on this planet. Each thing has its purpose and a reason for being here. It's not up to us to decide different. And when we are in alignment with Source, we understand that. You know, and that's the beautiful thing. It's about that spiritual connection. Spiritual connection overrules everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely does. I don't care. Anyone can say anything. You can have your little machines and your little whatever it is that do this and whatever. When you are in strong spiritual connection and you know you are aligned with the divine, especially when you're doing this type of work, you know it. It's like you don't have to grapple for what is going on here. The thoughts flow into you. It's like they drop into your mind, and it's like that flow of thoughts, words that God, creator, source, whatever it is, will give you, that completely affirms what the truth is. And you know it. Every cell in your body feels it. I can smell a liar. I'll tell you, when someone's speaking crap to me, and I always have been that way, there's a certain vibration in the voice, there's a certain stance in the body, a certain clench in the jaw, a certain look in the eye. And if you have to explain to me, ask me to explain to you exactly, I can't. It's just something I've had. And it's like, there's a metally sound in the energy, like when they're talking. It's all I can say. When someone is in truth, you feel their truth. You feel when someone's warm, and it doesn't mean that person is perfect. Please, I'm not saying then that person has never told a lie or been dishonest. We've all. I'm talking about authentically from the heart. So you know that person's heart, and you know what it is, how you can connect with that person. That's why couples are often very connected to each other if they've been together for a long time, and they have that, they start having that kind of psychic, if you will, connection. But we all have it with each other. We are one. We are created from the same divine source. And if we open ourselves up to understanding that it is available to us all, not just to a select few, we start just loving ourselves and appreciating this beautiful body, this beautiful mind, this beautiful opportunity on this earth to live and cohabit and co-create with others. And then that's where it begins. Everything else opens up. You have an automatic respect for life then and each other.
Animals can tell, they know exactly when someone's not being authentic, and you can see that straight away. And I think most of us humans do. It's just interesting how our ego mind can then step in and try and convince us for whatever reason that might be. And there are many reasons, but I think one of the things for me is, like, as soon as you start feeling yourself going into defensive mode over someone, there's something there, there's a misalignment there. And it's whether we're prepared to listen to it. But it's very interesting because I was listening to a lovely talk the other day, and this was something I didn't know until quite recently, that the Hopi tribe, the Hopi people, they had no words in their language for the past or the future. Everything describes the present. And if they're describing something like a force of nature, like lightning or waves, it's described as a way of being. So the lightning is lightning. It's a doing word. It's not a thing. And this, I thought, just sums up perfectly how off track we've gone as humans, and why we're in some of the problems that we are today. Because if you look at that ancient way of speaking, and I don't know a lot about the other ancient languages, so I can't really comment, but it seems to be a consistent theme, this focus on talking about everything in the present moment. And of course, that's the way the animals are communicating. Yes, absolutely. If an animal's been abused in the past, if there's something happens in the present moment, it will trigger that memory. But that's very different to not living in the present moment. The reaction is still right here, right now. And the fact that the Hopi's language was in alignment with that tells me that, deep down at our core, that's why we humans can be in such a state of confusion, because our language has now got to a stage where it's so complex. It's actually, there's often an out of alignment of how we're really feeling about the experience, the interaction that we're experiencing right here, right now.
Absolutely. I love that about what you're saying about the Hopi tribe. I actually didn't know that, because it is so important. When you're just looking at spiritual teachers like Eckhart Tolle, who wrote the book The Power of Now a number of years ago, must have been, I remember reading that in 2005.
Yeah.
So, for some reason, I remember that book came to me in 2005. So 15, 20 years now, that book came out. Very, very powerful book. And he really brought to our attention living in the past, how damaging that is. The only moment that you have is now. Because when you are in joy in this moment, like, you feel safe, there's a roof over my head, there's nothing chasing me, I'm warm, I've got clothes on my body, I've got food in my belly, all of these things, my basic needs are taken care of. I've got my mum upstairs, I've got love in my life, I've got when you feel safe in this moment, that feeling will carry you to the next moment. And that feeling will then translate into the next moment, which is another feeling of safety, of at peace, of good. So It doesn't matter if the world is falling around you and the bank is on your back or whatever it is. Yes, that's happening. But in this moment, you are safe. In this moment, you are content. And the more we feel that in this moment stuff, it has that effect of expanding. And it has a way of just creating the next moment to be perfect. So the future is really the next moment you create from this moment, which I really think is beautiful. So the only moment is now. When you're in this moment, enjoy every second of it. And that's really a brilliant, it's when we can master that, it's brilliant.
Yeah. And when you all of us know, and I'm sure lots of the listeners know, that when you're communicating with animals in whatever form that takes, and everyone will have a dominant sense, and some might see things, some might hear things, some might feel things, we'll all interpret that through our filter as well. But all the years that I've been communicating with my own animals and other people's animals, I've never once ever heard an animal bring up an event from the past. I've
Always
never,
as humans, right? Always
yeah,
as humans.
always
Yeah.
us humans. So if you just take a really common example, say you didn't know much about how to feed your dog or cat correctly and you've been feeding them kibble. And then say you had a light bulb moment and you start feeding them a well-balanced raw diet. The dog or the cat doesn't say, well, I wish she'd done it 5 years ago. I'm really resentful. Oh, God, and this. The dog's just, thank you. Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you. And it's gone. The past is gone for them. They're not. Now, if you then slip up on your ways and go back to feeding them kibble, you might then get a different reaction for them, because now they realise that you know better and you've got better, and therefore they can give different feedback to you. But yes. I love the lesson of the fact that they never, ever drag up the past and sort of or put any blame on it.
It's so true.
Gratitude in that moment. And I think if there's one thing, again, there's so much we can learn from them that can just bring such a different level of peace to us and everyone we interact with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm gonna echo what you're saying there, Catherine, because in all the times that we've done, that I've been doing animal communication, every time an animal, we bring up the past or a traumatic event or something, very often the animal will say, I don't remember, or I don't want to talk about it, or you don't need to know. It's that kind of thing. They will ask you not to go there. I remember South Africans, I'm not sure if this is broadcast internationally, but there's a animal rehabilitation center that I was working at up until a few years ago. And they are a rehabilitation center for the big cats. And they had a black panther who was very, very dysfunctional in his mannerisms and stuff like that. And it wasn't me, but another animal communicator they brought in. And he was called Diablo, which means devil. So immediately he did not like that name. So she changed his name. She asked him, what would you like to be called? And he said, Spirit. The minute she changed that he was being called Spirit, and he said, I don't want to speak about the past again, because he was very abused. And as I said, terrible things happen to our big cats in this country. It is disgusting. So no more talking about it. This is the future. And since that, that was quite at the beginning, I think, when that happened, of my animal communication days. Yeah. But that for me was a very, very valuable insight. So often I'll check with them. And, if I'll sort of say, did you have kittens or whatever, when you're asking, yes, they'll tell you that. But they'll give me, if I'm asking, let's say, to understand certain behavior, or why they react to loud noises, or why they can't have anything with their ear, they'll show me a flash of something happening. Maybe they were kicked or in a very loud place, or whatever the case might be. They will give you that for an understanding, but not more. And it's very,
Absolutely.
very true what you say. They don't. So we can take some very, very pleasant lessons from that. And I say pleasant because the past to be dragged up, let's have wonderful memories. Let's see what we learned from the past. Nothing can ever change the past. Not even God can change the past. But it's what we learned from the past and how that's molded us into who we are now, really.
Yeah. Take it and make it stronger. That's what animals
Mm.
do. They just grow stronger out of diversity and live in the now. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I
and
love
I
that
think
for your spirit.
I'm just sorry, I'm just actually seeing Liz again here. One of the comments, and I'm actually just going to put it on. Mona, maybe you want to just check some of these comments and see some of them might want to come on. I changed my dog's name from Trouble. He was a shelter dog and abused to Sir Frederick. We call him Freddie, and he absolutely loved it. I cannot tell you guys how important this is. If you've got an animal with a name like Trouble, rest assured it's going to play up to its name. So, a name like Ugly Face or something. Who wants to be called Ugly Face? Right? So they play up to their names. And as she's saying, the minute that he changed his name to Sir Frederick, you think he doesn't know that? Of course he knows that. Gives him that sense of, ooh, I'm a sir. The whole demeanor changes. You get a different reaction. It's about respect. It's about understanding. It's about compassion. It's about understanding that these are sentient beings.
I would
And
mirror that.
they know. They
Yeah,
know.
I'd mirror that so much, and it's funny because all of my animals are rehomed animals. I haven't got any that's aren't. And there's only been 2 in the whole time that we've had animals that haven't wanted their names changed. And interestingly, those are my 2 most recent Romanian cats. And what differentiated those from all my other animals is either they came with such an energy of confidence and peace and happiness. So, they arrived after a trip from Romania to the UK in a truck full of dogs and walked off, strutted off with the most confidence, no trauma at all. And those are the only 2 animals that we've ever rehomed that we haven't changed their names, because they didn't need their names changed, because they were very comfortable with bringing their past into their future.
Yeah.
Was actually all our others have absolutely wanted their names changed, and to it's like a clean slate, isn't it? It's like cleaning the slate, and that was the old, and now this is me in the present. And it's fascinating how often that comes up. And when I working with clients, even if they haven't called me out for communication, I'm using some of my other therapies. So often where there's been a very, what I would call more controversial or an energy of the name that's not suiting the animal, if I bring that up, and the owners might poo-poo it initially, and then when they change it to something softer, more agreeable, the animal completely changes. It's just, it is so important because, as everyone said in the comments, names have energies. And if you're going to do that, there was one lady who had a horse called Mouse, and it was scared of everything, absolutely everything. Well, mice live a very different life to horses. And when she then, and Mouse is a really cute name, people love mice. So it gives people smile when they said it. But when she then changed the horse's name, and I think she changed it. I can't even remember what she actually changed it to. The horse completely changed. It stopped shying at everything. It's really quite unbelievable, the transformation this can make. So please don't call your animals a jokey name that you might think is funny at their expense.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It really makes such a big difference. That really, really makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
So if you've called your animal something horrible and you think it's funny, but it's really, ask yourself if you would like to be called that. Just put it that way. Ask yourself if you would like to be called that.
Yeah. When I discovered, oh, sorry, I just wanted to add that on that subject. When I discovered numerology, I discovered by myself, figuring out everything. I did my numerology report with one of my friends who changed her name later in her life. And it was amazing to see that exactly what numerology, because numerology is the a measurement of sound. You could see how that she changed into that. I could actually mathematically see how she changed, and I could see that. So sound and vibration has power behind it. So I totally agree. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I just wanted to mention in the comments, Amanda's mentioned a couple of times in the comments about the diet. Absolutely, Amanda, a raw diet is much better, but you do need to know how to balance it carefully for, dog needs a different diet to a cat, etc. So on my website, catherineedwardsacademy.com, I have got a really, really good course, one for dogs and one for cats, which teaches you all you need to know about how to home prepare a really healthy, balanced diet for either your dogs or cats. So it makes such a difference, because when we allow them to eat what they need to eat to be healthy and thrive, then again, imagine how they view us in that relationship as well. So these things about, it was one of the points, I'm really pleased Amanda brought that up, not just specifically for the animals, for the diet, but for me, when we're bringing animals into our home, it's our responsibility as their caregivers to find out what their needs are. And diet is absolutely fundamental. It's right up there in the hierarchy of stressors. So if we're not feeding our animals how that species is meant to be fed, however much we love them, we are introducing a lot of stress into their lives.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh, what a lovely conversation today. I love this. Thank you so much, Catherine. It's been wonderful. I'm not sure if there's anything else. Again, I just look at the time, and as I always say on this program, time flies when we have fun. So, is there anything else you would maybe like to just say before we end off in closing to our viewers? You've always got such a wealth of information and knowledge. It's beautiful.
I just love these lives because I love the people and the questions they ask. And what I'm loving about this whole journey that we're on, talking on YouTube, is because people, if they're choosing to come to it, all of us are generally, are really genuinely always students. And when we do that from an open heart of just constantly asking the questions, wanting to do better, asking the questions, wanting to do better, everyone and everything responds differently to us. So I love the interaction that we've had from the audience. And I just love us now. We've had so much talks over the last few years, rightly so, about humanity. And I always try and broaden it out to say there's more on this planet than just humans. And I think just by limiting it just to humanity's needs, we can go very off track. So all I just love doing is encouraging, like we've all been doing, including everyone who's participated today, is opening our minds and asking the question, what does my plant need? What does my garden need? What does my animals need? Because you always find, when you look at it through another person's or another being's or a plant's point of view, there's always that benefit back to you anyway. So it's a win-win-win. And I look at everything. Is it a win for me as an individual? Is it a win for whoever I'm interacting with? And is it a win for the planet? And if you look at it from those two things, then for me, it relieves a lot of stress about the decisions I make in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just got a comment here from Liz again that Sir Fred passed away. Oh, so happy that we were able to bring him up there in our chat. Clearly his spirit is here with us. So yeah. But it's so important to be able to understand that and very often they, if you believe in this, they are spirit guides. They come, they protect us, they are our companions, they are amazing. I mean, I've heard countless stories over the years of how animals have healed people. I mean, one of my cats was a healing cat. I'll never forget one day, I was working with one of my clients. She had cancer. And my cat at the time, her name was Frangelica. She was lying on her belly. And the next minute, Frangelica got up, jumped out the window, and for some reason, I looked at her and she went and she was throwing up. And I went, "What's that about?" And she says, "Getting rid of cancer." After that, my client was diagnosed, well, she was then in remission. And to this day, she will tell you that my cat healed her. So it was amazing what they, and especially cats. Cats are known to transform energy. Hey, they are energy transformers. So yeah.
That's why we've all got so many around us. I'm got 5 at the moment, but I'm always open, cats. You know where I am. And we'll
also
have plenty to turn up. You've got 5 as well, have you, Mornay?
Yeah, I really want one more, but I'm not allowed anymore.
I have that as well. I do have that as well. And also you do have to take in mind about how much attention you can give them all. And, you know,
I must say that I'm so good with, because with each one, they've got their own voice. They get their own voice from me. They get their own stroke and everything. But
Yeah, Massa, you are very good. You're very good with your cats, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm down to 2.
I was the middle child, so I know how it feels to feel left out.
Me too, Mornay. Me too. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you on that. And yeah, we're so blessed. I was talking with Bryce yesterday in our chat about any of us humans who are fortunate enough to share, because it is a luxury. It's a real luxury to be able to have an animal purely for pleasure and companionship. And I don't mean that pleasure in a nasty way like a handbag. I mean it purely because we are lucky enough to share our lives with them without needing them to provide meat to us or hairs or whatever. So, you know, I certainly don't take that for granted. And at the moment I've got cats, dogs, ponies, rabbits and guinea pigs, plus all the wildlife. We were really happy last night because our moles come back to our garden. So we're happy we've got molehills all over the lawn as well. But yeah, we're all very, very blessed to have that interaction and to have those lessons and the energy and the love that they bring to us.
Absolutely. And you know, I truly believe they are sent here to be our companions. And we should be very grateful that they choose to be here with us despite our abuse of them over the centuries. Hey, look at that.
I've got Lola on the floor and Indy. I'm not sure if you can see Indy camouflaged on the sofa, but yeah, they're always in here with me. And normally you can tell when the cats are because they normally knock everything flying off my desk, but I'm very, very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Beautiful.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's been really lovely having this chat today. Thank you so much, Mornay and Chantelle, and everyone who's contributed.
Yeah, thank you so much, Catherine. As always, it's such a pleasure having you on our show, and we look forward to having you back again in a month's time, a couple of weeks from now. And in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. Find us on Facebook, BitChute, Twitter, Telegram. Where are we now? All over. Yeah, Mornay will have the links. And yeah, have a beautiful weekend, everybody. God bless you all.
Bye.
Bye.